You have reached Wrestling Political Review. I'm your man, Brad Steele, and today I'll be reviewing Star Wars The Black Series. Star Wars, The Black Series, The Mandalorian. But before I get to the actual review, I just want to go over some of the spectacular details on this packaging. Up front here, a typical display window showing you both the figure and all those accessories inside. On the top here, you have the Star Wars logo, and below that it says The Black Series. Then down here, you have Star Wars The Mandalorian, and below that, The Mandalorian, Mines of Mandalore. Then down here, you have the 4+, which is the age requirement for this figure. In your corner here, you have the Hasbro logo. Inside the packaging here, again, you have the Star Wars logo with the Black Series. Then on the side of the packaging here, this beautiful illustration of the Mandalorian holding the Darksaber. And below that it says, The Mandalorian, Mines of Mandalore. Then the back of the packaging here, again, you have the illustration. Up top here, you have the Star Wars logo, and below that, the Black Series. Over here it says, The Mandalorian, Mines of Mandalore. Then over here you have a caption that reads, Reunited with Grogu, Din Djarin undertakes a new quest to reclaim a place in Mandalorian society as his scattered people unite to take a stand against Imperial remnants. Then down here you have a 37, which represents his number in this series, and next to that, Star Wars, The Mandalorian. Then down here you have the Disney logo, and over here you have the Hasbro logo. Star Wars, The Black Series, The Mandalorian. Mines of Mandalore. The Mandalorian was released on April 26, 2024 with the suggested retail price of $24.99, and he's available at all major retailers. The Mandalorian is a Mandalorian live-action series-inspired figure that is based on a scene from the Star Wars galaxy. His accessories include the Darksaber, knife, and blaster. The Mandalorian stands 6 inches tall, and he is meant for fans ages 4 and up. Now that the Mandalorian on my display table, so we'll go over some of his play features and accessories, first by talking about his knife. This knife is brilliantly done. He has some great molded detail throughout the blade and handle. He also has some nice paint detail, especially in the handle here, painted out like a metallic silver paint. If you shine certain angles of the light, you got some dull metallic luster there. And you got some great metallic paint detail for the handle too. It is painted out of like a darker silver paint. Very nicely done. And this knife, I mean, it's pointed, but it's molded out of rubbery plastic. So if you get to the hands of some children, they start poking each other, it's not going to cause any significant damage, because you can see the blade kind of folds under the pressure. But I mean, you don't want these kids poking each other in the eye, because it will cause a little bit of damage. It's still a sharp edge. Very nicely done. Unfortunately, with the handle here, it's very, very small. And the whole opening for the hand is pretty big. So the knife, if you put it into the Mandalorian's hand, it's not going to securely stay in place. But it's very, very cool accessory. And I did find a spot where you can store this accessory on the Mandalorian. I'm going to try putting it in the other hand and show you guys how loose it is. I mean, it's loosely in the hand. But I'm not sure where this knife plays a role in that certain scene on the Mines of Mandalore. But I did find a spot where it does store in his boot right here. Get this little slot right here. And you take that blade, you can slide it right in that little slot. And I don't really recall this blade. I haven't watched The Mandalorian in quite a while. I watched it when it first aired. And I should have watched it before I did this review, because the specific scene was a very significant part of the series. But the next accessory I want to go and bring in is his blaster. And this blaster is really freaking cool, because you get that wooden handle mold detail right there. Very nicely done. I mean, it gives off that western vibe, but the Mandalorian is more of a space western, which is really, really cool, that his weapon is kind of like almost modeled after a 6-shooter. Get that silver paint detail for the top right here. And again, you shine it to the light, you get that dull metallic luster, and you get that wooden handle detail. You also have this molded detail right here where it's the trigger. Very nicely done because his hand is actually molded with a trigger finger. Now you have to slip the handle right into his hand just like that and put his finger right into that molded detail, and it looks like he's holding a 6-shooter. Very nicely done. I just love the detail in this figure. But there's also a way to store this blaster on the Mandalorian. And that's because he has a holster right here on his hip. You take this blaster, you slide it right into this holster, just like that. And now you have this blaster stored in this holster. And I think that's really cool what Hasbro's doing with a lot of these newer generation of action figures, where you can actually store your weapons on the actual figure. Because if you were a fan of action figures back in the 80s, you had little holsters that were molded on the figure, but they were just there for decoration. They didn't really function or serve any purpose towards the figure. But nowadays, I mean, every little hook and little groove serves a purpose. I mean, obviously with the knife right here and the blaster here. Because the last accessory I'm going to bring in is the dark saber. And in the Minds of Mandalore, we saw that the Mandalorian still had the dark saber. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that purple hue. What they did was they molded out of a white plastic right here, and they did some paint detail in the middle right here. The nice thing is this this hilt and sword separate. So if you choose to store this dark saber on the Mandalorian, get a little hoop right here in the back of his belt. And I'm not sure if he did this in the series. You just hook that right in there, just like that. It's pretty small. Really nicely done. And I love that they did a 2-for-1 deal where either you get the hilt or the hilt and sword, or hilt and blade, because, you know, back in the day, advances in technology nowadays, I mean, you either had to have the hilt or the sword and hilt, but now you have 2-in-1, which is nicely done. And in order to arm the Mandalorian with this darksaber, you slip it right into his hand, just like that. Very nicely done. I love this figure, and I love the darksaber. And if you've watched the series, you find out the fate of the darksaber, and it's not a bad fate, you know. But the darksaber does make a big significant, run in the storyline. It's very important in the Mandalorian storyline. I'm going to put this darksaber off to the side because I want to go over the Mandalorian himself, because I'm finally thrilled that I have a Mandalorian with a full Beskar armor. Because the figure that I previously reviewed was, I think, towards the beginning of the Mandalorian. I think he only had one plate of Beskar armor, but now he completed it, and it's very nice because throughout most of the series now he's had the complete Beskar armor, and this is the first time I've got my hands on a figure with that complete Beskar armor. Unfortunately, I wish I got my hands on a figure with the backpack, but I mean, there's other releases, and I mean they've done this mold so many times. I mean, there's so many different versions of the Mandalorian. I mean, I think there's another Mandalorian version with the backpack and with Grogu. But I got my hands on this one, and if I do get my hands on another version of the Mandalorian, you know for sure I'm going to be reviewing that, because I love the Mandalorian. Such a great series, great figure, and I love how all the Beskar armor plates are molded out of a metallic silver plastic, where you shine it to the light, you get that dull luster. Very nicely done. Lots of points of articulation, and I really love that there are a lot of mold detail to this figure, because I mean, the plates of Beskar armor are actually molded out of a different plastic. I mean, on top of the points of articulation, and I mean, you got like the blue knee pad right here. I mean, there's so much mold detail. I mean, so many pieces in this figure that kind of come together to form the Mandalorian. It's just such a great figure. But I'm going to rotate him around so you guys see what it looks like from all angles. But if you guys found any information in this review valuable, please like and share this video. Also, if you really enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel. And while you're there, click the bell to be notified of any future videos. I want to thank you guys for watching Red Steele's House Toy Collector Review. I'll check you guys out next time.